Okay, I just started recording, so Ingi, you may start presenting.
Okay, so good evening. My name is Ingi Fernandez, and I will be the moderator of this ArchiDesign talk. Dear professors, dear students, dear members of the Faculty of Architecture and Design, and all those interested in design, and to my guest of this evening of Archi Talks. Warm welcome, Dennis Marquart. One of the things that connects me and my guest this evening is we both graduated from the Danish Design School in Copenhagen, a very inspiring school with a strong design tradition in crafts and design that dates back to 1875. Their students are mainly found working and experimenting by building prototypes in the workshops for wood, metal, glass, ceramics, and textiles. It's a very hands-on education where each student gets to learn various craft skills, and this is very apparent in the Scandinavian designer we have here this evening with us, Dennis Marquart. As until this day, he likes to build his own furniture by hand through his rigorous process of ideation, countless prototyping in one-to-one, and a fully finished product with the quality of Scandinavian design that is known worldwide. Please give my warm welcome to my guest this evening, Dennis Marquart. It is an honor to have you, Dennis. And Dennis is going to talk about his Danish design brand, OXDENMARQ. I want to start this conversation that I'm going to have with Dennis with the words of a Danish philosopher, Søren Kierkegaard, where he says, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." On that note, Dennis, if you reflect back 20 years to the days you were in the design school as a student, what are the things you learned there that you consider that have contributed to you as a designer until this day?
Yeah, thank you, Ingi, and thank you, BAU University, for hosting me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here on this online presentation talk. If I look back, it's what I learned in the school is actually one of the things is this. I remember really clearly the first furniture I made, and my first presentation, and I did not get very good critics for that piece because it was actually way too complicated, but it was surely artistic. It was a very complicated piece.
I think your voice broke a little bit, Dennis. So can you start from where you presented it and you didn't get?
I didn't get very good critics for it because it was way too complicated. And I have just been at an art school, and I had I can see that I had a kind of way too artistic mindset to go to the design school, especially if you want to do furniture, because it's not about being artistic. It's more about being doing this simplicity.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So the first thing I learned a lot, of course, during my study time. But the first thing I surely learned was that I should focus on the simple things. And if you had a complicated thing, you should get rid of all unnecessary details and just come up with what was absolutely necessary for this piece of furniture. That was where it all began.
Yeah, yeah. So,
yeah.
You decided very early on to start your own company instead of working. Let me see here. No, I guess, yeah. Yeah, you started your own company. Let's just take it from there.
Yeah. Well, before I finished my studies at the Danish design school, I met a guy. A guy came into the school and asked me to help him because he wanted to build up Poul Henningsen furniture again. Poul Henningsen, he is world known and well known for his lighting and lamps. But at that time, nobody hardly knew that he had been designing furniture also, and pianos, etc. So this guy, he wanted to start up a furniture company because he had found some of his old Poul Henningsen furniture. So I was asked to help him getting them back in production. Most of them had actually never been in production. They have only been made prototypes of them. So at that time, there was this museum in Copenhagen called Kunstindustrimuseet. It's an art museum for furniture, and now it's called Danish Design Museum. So I went there, and they had some of Poul Henningsen's own prototypes, which I could draw one-to-one on paper, and then afterwards make a visual and a 3D drawing, and then a technical drawing, and then send the technical drawing to a manufacturer who could make the piece.
Sorry, Dennis, Marquart, would you be able to take down this image that you have here of the window so we see better the drawing? You know, this by clicking on this icon here. Yeah, this one. Okay, super. Yeah, thank you.
Is this better?
This is super. Now we see the drawing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I worked for him. I started working for him during my study time, and then when I finished studies, as soon as I finished studies, I worked for him like a full-time job. But I got the agreement with him that I could work only 4 days, so I had time to do my own stuff 3 days a week. While I was working for him, one of the job was to redraw the piano that you see in this picture. There was no drawings of it. There was only there was sold a couple of pieces back then, and then but there was no production drawings or anything, technical drawings of it. So that piano I had drawn on paper, and then taking these drawings and put it into the computer and making 3D drawings and 2D drawings, and to be able to manufacture it again. And now it is in production, and the same are the furniture, so you can actually buy it in Copenhagen and see the pieces also in central Copenhagen. So it was a big you can call it education for me to do this, because you learn so much about the sizes and proportions of furniture by looking at old pieces that have been done. And of course, this piano was an enormous job to do, and I was not very skilled at 3D drawing before. And after that piano, I was kind of a master for 3D drawing in the computer. So I was happy to do that, and I learned a lot. At the same time, with a friend of mine from the design school, I started up a company. It didn't, where we did glasses. Actually, it was, I don't know, I don't remember quite how we got the idea, but we got the idea to make glasses in pre-compressed veneer. Just, we had this idea that we knew that Arne Jacobsen's chairs, the 7 chair, are made in layers of veneer pre-compressed together with glue, and then you have a very strong shape, and chair which still are very thin in wood. And that was more or less the inspiration to do that in wood, and it was never seen before. So we did these glasses in veneer. In these pieces you see on the pictures, there are 7 layers of veneer together.
I remember these samples at your home with the veneer, and there was some kind of strengthening material in between, if I remember right.
Yeah, exactly. When you cross the layers of veneers, it gets very strong. And then the difficult thing was to find somebody, a company who could mill out the shape for us, because it has to be very precise. Otherwise, it's not possible for the optician to put in the glasses, the lenses. So we found a company in East Germany, and we drew over there, and or went over there, and they actually could make it. They only did Christmas decoration in wood before we came to them, but they could do this for us. So we started up a collaboration with them, and they shaped our glasses to whatever shape we wanted, and then it was possible to do. And my partner in this company, he was a skilled silversmith, so he did the hinges for the frames. In the beginning it was silver, but then we turned it over to a cheaper kind of metal, of course, and got them casted somewhere abroad. Just to say that there is nothing in this piece of eyewear that is pre-fabricated. It all is designed by us, and then it's again we just, back then as now, we just loved the natural materials, and as you can see, the 5 different woods we used for this, yeah, it was a kind of successful kind company for a while, but the problem was that we were two designers having the company, and we were focusing way too much on design and not on any business. So it ended without growing, and quite the opposite. And then also, actually, before I finished my studies, I met a guy who had an idea about some leather chairs, and this guy had been living in the South America for some years, and in Buenos Aires there's the biggest tannery in the world. Maybe because I don't know the numbers now, but at that time they had about 80 million cows over there living in the pampas, and that makes a lot of leather. So we met and decided to try to sell some chairs or furniture in Copenhagen from leather tanned in Buenos Aires and manufactured in Buenos Aires, and then the framework should be done in Denmark. I have a background as a blacksmith as well, so it was quite easy for me to do some frames for this leather, and that was where it all began. So in the very beginning, when I have left the school, I were working at this PH furniture company and try to build up a wooden eyewear company, and at the same time I started up this furniture company with a guy I had just met. Yeah, we started the company in 2004. It was basically one chair in one shop in Copenhagen. We had both jobs beside of this company, so it was not necessary for our living with an income from this company, which was very good, but because there was not much income at that time. Of course, it was like natural that we started out and did everything in natural materials, as the main material was leather, saddle leather, especially without any chrome added. It was the natural vegetable tanned leather, and among Danish designers, it's the highest quality of leather you can aim for. So it was a pleasure to work with, and that is the keystone in OX. That is also where the OX, the letters OX comes from. It's the ox, the cow from the pampas. And it was not, in the beginning, it was not a philosophy we had that everything should be handcrafted in Denmark, but quite fast it became just natural for us that it should be handcrafted in Denmark. Quite a lot of it is it's not even though it looks so simple and easy to do, it is not that simple to do. not with the details that I have decided and designed them to be with. So
that's often what people think if they see something that looks simple, that is very simple to make.
yeah, actually I have tried to look for some manufacturer to when sometimes we have some very big orders coming in, and I have tried to find some suppliers or manufacturers that could help us out with big orders, but with some of our products I simply cannot. There's no one that can do it like us.
So you are manufacturing this in your own company, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And it is like the leather is manufactured in Spain, and the marble we use are manufactured in Spain, even though it comes from different places. We are working together with 2 tanneries in Spain and 2 or 3 workshops that can sew the leather for us. The name of OXDENMARQ is part my name, and also in the 50s and 60s there is this Danish design as a brand. It was well known and world known for the design, and it is now the only country in the world where the country name is a design brand, and it is a very, very strong brand, and it was supported by the government in the 60s, and that's why it became so world famous, and everybody that is into furniture design, I think, know some Danish designers from that time, no matter where in the world they come from. And it's of course something to carry on your shoulders when you try to do some pieces in Denmark as a Danish designer. As I mentioned, the materials and the natural materials is like everything for us. So in the left corner up, you can see some of the barrels that are used for this tannery of the leather, and it's 100% without chemically, without any chrome. Normally all leather are more or less chrome tanned, and ours is the clean stuff. It's more like a vegetable juice we tan it with, and the recipe is highly secret.
Of course. Sustainable recipe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And then there are the workshops that sew and cut the leather, and we have of course educated them to the Scandinavian standard. They are very skilled craftsmen, but have a total another view on what the aesthetic demands we have in the Nordic countries.
Dennis, I think your voice might have frozen after you told that you have to teach them.
Yeah.
They were craftsmen. What did you say after that?
We have to teach them about the aesthetic and if the aesthetic way of thinking in the Scandinavian. So the details are so important, and it cannot be rushed, and again, they are much more artificial in or artistic, of course, not artificial, artistic in Spain, for example. So they normally do some artistic leather craft, which are very, very nice and very highly skilled, whatever they do. But that's not what we want for furniture in Scandinavia. We want it much more clean, and it was quite a job to educate them in that sense.
Yeah, I remember you receiving samples and having to send them back and forth, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they weren't up to the standard.
Yeah, and sometimes I need to go down there and to be with them for some days to educate them in what it is to be a Danish designer and what we want. It's of course not a matter of what I want. It's also because I know what the customer wants in Scandinavia when they buy a piece of design furniture. They don't want this artistic piece from a Danish designer. If they want this artistic piece, they will go to Spain and buy it, right?
Yeah.
So that was an education job for us to do in Spain. And as I mentioned, we do the steelwork in our own workshop in Denmark, and we have some skilled blacksmiths to do it. And about steel and metal, we use mainly 3 different materials or metals. It's stainless steel, and it's black steel, which is powder coated afterwards, and then it's brass. And about the brass, it's I designed some pieces that were more or less not possible to make with the material you can get in the shop. And after a while, we actually got that material. It's a certain combination of brass. Normally, if you buy brass in the shop, it is not really possible to bend. It will break when you bend it. But we got this brass material made for us, so it was possible to bend.
So there is a lot of innovation going into these pieces, although you might not see it at once, but there is a lot in the process, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's not possible. It's not possible to see. You have to know it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you don't know it. I mean, it just looks simple and easy.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's everything else but that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be very complicated to make these pieces, simple pieces, when you don't want to compromise with a certain radius of a bend or mill or and just the shape of it.
Exactly, and also this eye for detail that you're trained with. Yeah, there is no way to compromise from that, is it?
Yeah.
It's a curse in some ways to have that too, isn't it? It's really hard to.
It is, and it's quite difficult. It's quite easy to make a clumsy, ugly detail connection on a piece of furniture, but it's quite difficult to keep it simple every single time.
And also in Scandinavia, there is this It is this understanding of detail, that a detail is not it's not a decoration. It's actually often something, isn't it, that is solving a problem, or is included in solving something. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And
doesn't exist for the detail itself. It usually has another function, right?
yeah, and for example, if you look at this this table and the chair on the bottom of this picture, it's you cannot find anything that can be taken away from the chair, the table, without, because if it's not there, you don't have a table or chair.
Exactly. And that was a painstaking process, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That was a painstaking process to arrive at that.
Yeah.
A long process.
Yeah.
Because as you said, these things look simple, but the work behind them can be enormous.
Yeah, often it is. Often it is. As Mies van der Rohe, he once said, the architect, it's more simple to make a skyscraper than a piece of chair.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you mean. We are also using marble in our for our tables, and it's become kind of half of the business, maybe, if you look in numbers. And the funny story about this is that in 2013, when I started doing the very first marble table, my inspiration came from Paul Kjærholm, who has done some amazing tables. But they are also amazing expensive. And my idea was to be a little bit more humble and say, if we have these decent, natural, very, very beautiful natural materials, it must be possible to make these pieces affordable for normal people. And if you do a good design, it will still last forever. Just like Paul Henningsen's, not Paul Henningsen, Paul Kjærholm's tables, and they are sold and very popular today for those who can afford them. And we just want them to be affordable for more people. And in that matter, I started to design and play with marble as for a table. And I don't know in your country, but here in Denmark, they were laughing at me because I was designing marble tables, because it was some of the ugliest thing you could have in your home back in the 80s, where it was, I don't know why, but it was really bad design and it was really ugly. So all people had this reference to marble tables from the 80s, and it was terrible. So they really laughed at me, but I had this idea and this vision that I was sure it could be something. So I started with the Carrara marble from Italy, and got some tops home, and it actually became a success from the very beginning, and actually many companies have got this what do you call it? It's not they have not copied us, but they have surely got a lot of inspiration from us, because suddenly they have marble tables as well, So we were like first movers for affordable marble tables in the Scandinavian countries. And that's why we grew very, very fast in 2016 and 17 because of these marble tables. And now we have several different colors or stones in our catalog, and we are capable to get more or less whatever you want if you want to pay for it or have a certain project for the purpose. Yeah. And back to the company OXDENMARQ. It's we are two owners still, and of course the most important thing for a successful company is to have a good team, and we surely have. We have Smith, we have stock workers, and we have upholstery people in our company, and altogether it makes us capable to still sell furniture and also to develop new.
So they have this in-house knowledge of how to make it up to the standard.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that takes a long time to train, isn't it?
Some parts of it, yes, and some part of it, no. But one thing that is very important for me and for us is that we have a certain standard. It actually can be a higher standard if you want to say that. But this higher standard nobody really sees, but it costs so much money. So and now you might think, what is that? And one example is that if we have a welding that is just underneath the tabletop, which nobody can see when you use the table, why use half an hour to grind this welding away to make it smooth and nice if nobody can see it? And it is an honest part of the furniture to have this welding because it is welded in the very beginning. So I try to hide something that is a piece of the structure. And then if we get some claims about this, why about this welding, somebody might ask, why have you not removed it? Then we tell, well, if you want to pay 150 euros for us to remove this welding, we can talk about it. And then they ask for no more.
Well, I guess this also comes to living in a country that is a design brand itself, because what you notice is that people are very well into design in Denmark. So I remember, yeah, when they are looking at the piece, they look under it. They feel
exactly.
They find this welding if it is there, and they enjoy seeing that someone has thought about solving it in a good way.
Yeah.
And then that gives them enormous pleasure, like you're referring to know that table is like that, even though, as you say, few will notice it.
Yeah, and of course it's not there without a reason, and it is certainly not placed exactly there without a thought.
Exactly.
It is placed there just because I know that nobody can see it when the table is in use, unless you turn the table upside down. But still the quality has to be very, very high. And what our demand is for high quality is that we do furniture of so good materials that they can last for a lifetime, and maybe even be handed over to the children after a lifetime. That's good quality, and then you also would see on the piece of furniture that it had been living a lifetime. So it will get some patina, and it's just beautiful in our mindset.
And this is also like dating back to Arne Jacobsen's, you know, his leather furniture, how beautifully that leather ages with time, isn't it?
Exactly.
So seeing time through the design, seeing that something is used, and actually those pieces, they actually go up in price with time.
Yeah.
Rather than down.
Yeah. Again, it's all about this vegetable tanned leather and marble. We have the production set up to do whatever we have in the collection, but also we do some custom pieces, which it's for example, when before the pandemic, we have had quite a lot of customers from that were doing hotels, and quite often they really liked our designs, but they might want it in a slightly different size or length or height or whatever, and we could easily do that for them because we have in-house production and we have a very close relationship to our suppliers of leather and marble.
So it comes very handy for you when you get an idea and you want to try it. You can try it immediately. You have the means to do so, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, I do the prototypes myself in the workshop, where I have my own table, welding table, and so so that's the way for me to do some experiments.
Because I remember you working a lot with prototypes.
Yeah, a lot of prototypes.
That was your way of thinking, basically.
Yeah, and the good thing about working in metal is that you can cut a piece off and weld another one on, and just continue developing on the same piece. If you do it in wood, you have to start all over each time almost. So yeah. And again, we have strategic partners, both production-wise and sales-wise. We have suppliers which are very reliable and good to us, and then we really don't have a sales team in-house. It's we're working with agents and distributors around the world, so our sales team is very limited in-house, but then it becomes very huge because we're working with external agents and distributors. Again, it's all about natural materials. We work with this vegetable tanned leather, we work with marble, we work with steel. And when I do a new design, it always starts with the material, and I really love to see what the material can do. And stretch the material to the edge. And sometimes I fall over the edge, but then I had to climb back, and then I knew I had taken it to the limit. And of course, I need a good team to get these ideas into production, but that is what we have. And again, we once we were offered, no, not once. At the beginning, I did not knew that much about raw materials of steel, for example. So we got steel from all over the world, and I thought steel was steel, but it was certainly not steel quality, high quality from where we got it. So what happened is that sometimes the frames looked very strange, and that was because I have got poor quality from somewhere in the world, and now we only get, for example, stainless steel. We get only from one supplier in France, so we know the quality is always the same, and always the same high level. And that's the same with all the materials we get. We know exactly where we get them from, because then we can rely on the quality.
And this is very important, isn't it, in the Danish market, because they're so much aware of quality.
Yeah, it is certainly very, very important. Yeah. And if you can rely on your suppliers, you cannot grow in any way, because suddenly you are stuck with a bunch of bad quality material, and you could do nothing. To tell a little bit about my design process, it's sometimes it's fast and sometimes it's slow. I cannot tell when it's the one or the other, but always it has to be simple. So if I have 3 sketches, I always choose the most simple of them. And again, it has to be possible to make. You can actually make simple looking pieces that are very complicated to make, and also very, very expensive to make. But that's not the idea. It has to be possible to mass produce them in an efficient way.
And that takes a lot of iterations, isn't it, to arrive at that point?
Yeah, you will go back and forward maybe 1,000 times, but
and also, well, what we usually don't see is that to achieve that, often you gotta make even new tools or tool benches to be able to create that possibility, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And one example is that right now I had asked a supplier to bend something for me, but he said, well, this cannot be bended because the bend is too sharp. It was a piece of metal, and I just have to tell him that maybe you cannot bend it, but I can bend it on my machine. So maybe that was the wrong supplier.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also a very interesting part of design, that one is not only designing the product, but also one is designing how it is made.
Yeah, you have to believe in yourself, and that was what I was just mentioning, that you have to take everything to the limit, and sometimes over the limit, and then go back. Otherwise, you have not fulfilled your job as a designer, I think.
I think that's also very Scandinavian, to travel to the limits of things.
Yeah.
Because it's like they want to be original. They make their own marks in the snow. You know, they go out in the worst weathers, and sometimes they return, sometimes they don't. But they are willing to go to the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's in the process too.
Yeah, and as I also mentioned, this the thing about quality and good design is that it lasts. And you can see now, if you go to the online auction or whatever. There's a lot of well-designed furniture that are 70 years old or older that still are bought for new homes. That's interesting. They are so high quality that you can still use them without any problems. And then a thing that is very well known from the design school is that when you have a piece of furniture, it should be so aesthetic and beautiful design that you still think it's beautiful when nobody uses it. So it can kind of be a sculpture in the place where it is without being used. And that's I think that's exactly that thing is very Danish, I think. Yeah. That's not even Scandinavia, it's Danish.
Yeah. And this, yeah, okay. And the storytelling that is behind things, and how one chair is different when you have like 20 or 30 chair of the same type. How space and furniture work together. That's also something they are very aware of.
Yeah, exactly. And as a part of the process, I also want to tell a little bit about my the development of a chair. This is also a kind of process. Because I am a craftsman, I can do prototypes myself. I also shoot leather for the chair sometimes, for the prototypes. And then I do some experiments too, and they go forward and backwards a lot of times before the final result. But for a chair, for example, you just have to make it one-to-one to be able to sit it into. You have a function. It needs to be comfortable. It has to have the right proportions. It has to be the right size, the height, the strength. It's really complicated to make a chair. And here I have written that it can take years to finish a chair. I know that on these pictures you see different steps of a chair, and this has ended up like you can see in the right corner below. And this chair is selling very well now. But I have another chair, and it's a bit the same story. I counted when I finished it from when I started, and it was about 5 years. It took from the very beginning till it was exactly as I wanted, with all the details that should be there and not be there, so to speak. For example, if you can make this artistic piece, which actually is very, very comfortable and everything is good, but it's so difficult to make that you can sell one piece a year to some rich American dude, and that's hard to make a living of. So in my mindset, it should be as easy as possible to make and to assemble. And if you don't give up, suddenly it's there, and you're not. I'm for sure not in any doubt when it's right. And it's a good feeling to reach that point. Again, here you see pieces that I think is as simple as they can be, because if you remove anything from them, it will not work. It is just it's not a chair or table anymore. That's also a construction matter. It's very thin rods that are used for the chairs in the top, for example, and you can go up, of course, in dimension, and which will make it more clumsy, but you cannot go down because then it will break. And it's the same about the chair in the middle. It is exactly the dimension it should be. You can go up, but you cannot go down.
So you have tested the limits of these things.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is also very Danish to, things should not only look good, but they should be strong. They should be lasting, like you said before, isn't it?
Yeah, but still it's easy enough to make something that can carry an elephant, right? But it might not be that light impression and nice to look at. And the seating, yeah, of course, it's important, and it took. Also, I have been working on the seating for a while, and I have had some experience that were not that comfortable, but that's something you learn over time. Also, because the thing is, when you work with leather, it stretches over time, no matter how thick it is. So one chair can be very comfortable when it's brand new, and after some years, you will just slide out of it because of the leather that stretched. I know that now, but I did not knew that 20 years ago. So you also need to know how the material develops over time. Then again, it has to be easy to assemble. It's very important. And here is about the philosophy of OXDENMARQ. I think I have mentioned most of it, but it is to make the highest possible quality and still without unnecessary details. And then in this, just keep this is normal. If you talk about saddle leather, we have two different kinds of saddle leather. The one is one of them is up, it's 3.5 millimeters thick and about plus minus, and then we have one which is used for the chair you see in the picture here, which is almost 5 millimeters thick. And it is, when you talk about this very thick leather and the marble, which is a stone, you think of heavy things. But for me, it's very important that take these heavy things and give them a light impression. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for me. And I think we have succeeded in that matter. And then still, it should be affordable. I mean, that is maybe also a Scandinavian and Danish way of thinking. But I surely think that why make furniture that nobody can afford? It doesn't make sense for me. As we grew, we also are mentioned on the front pages in different magazines here in Norway and Australia and several others. We have been used in Australia for a winery down there, and we have been used in very nice and big hotel in Copenhagen, in the part of Copenhagen that is called Carlsbergbyen, which is it was one of the biggest orders we have got so far, with 700 about 700 pieces to one hotel. Among that, this you can see bar stools for a restaurant here, and it was more or less developed for this restaurant. And we got awarded for this O table. Again with marble, and we have been used in the Scandic Hotel with some chairs. Yeah, actually that was more or less what I had. I know maybe Ingi, you have some questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you here, I don't know, now my everyday job is to educate and train our future talents here in design and innovation, creativity here at Başakşehir University, and yours is being in the creative and innovative storms of Nordic design, sailing your Danish design brand, the OXDENMARQ, further to the heights of success. Is there anything, Dennis, that you can advise our students here in Başakşehir University of how to become a better designer or a design thinker and creators?
First of all, do not ever compromise on anything, and don't take the easy road to a piece of design. You have to stretch yourself and your way of thinking, and whatever material you're working with, to the limit every single time. I think that's my best advice. If you are furniture cannot be done fast, then it becomes a fast furniture and it's no good.
Good point. On these notes, I think the presentation is finished, and maybe we have do you have time, Dennis, like five minutes or so for some questions from students?
Yeah, I have absolutely 5 or 10 minutes if
okay.
Nice. Someone.
Yeah. So if someone wants to ask, they can ask now. You can also write it in the chat if there is.
Yeah.
Let me see. So
I have a question, if it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, Dennis, if you want, you can stop sharing.
Yeah.
There's this little icon there. Yeah, okay. This one, yes, with the X. The other one with the X. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, thank you. I was going to ask about the financial side. The first company with the veneer glasses, I loved it. You said that financially it wasn't going fine, as I understood. And what made the difference in this company? I think our students are mostly afraid of that. When they're starting their own company, they never have any financial concerns when they're a student, but when they get into the real life, those are the real concerns. So would you have any advice on that?
Yeah, but you can do it in different ways. I mean, we actually got some what do you call it? Some money from the government, because we got awarded for the glasses and the innovation part of it. So we got quite a lot of money.
That's also very, in Denmark, isn't it? There is a very strong supportive network for this business.
Yeah.
Those who are trying to innovate in the front.
Yeah. So because we needed to go to some fairs in Paris, and it was quite expensive, and we were had just finished our studies and so on, so we had not that many money. So that was very good for us to get those money for the glasses. But for the furniture, we actually just needed money for making one chair, and then we went to the shop and sold that one, and then we had a little money to make 2 chairs.
Yeah.
And in that matter, I went there to that shop on my bike with each chair we sold. So it grew in a very quiet and easy way, and we made our own money to the growth.
This is also a good insight into many Danish designers, that when they start, there is this image that things are very easy, there's a lot of money, and things just stream. But yeah, there is actually more than one case that I know of that yeah, you have to travel with your own design on the back of your bike to get it to the destination.
Yeah. But
and things
it also depends on what you're into, because the glasses we needed money because we needed to make tools. They were expensive. With the furniture, we did not. With the first piece of furniture we made, we did not really need any tools. So in that matter, it was easier to start with.
So we have like 5 minutes more, I guess, if there is anyone who wants to ask something. Otherwise, we are finished. We're over time.
Professor Alchin wants to ask something. Ingi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dear Danish Marquart, thank you, first of all, for your presentation and sharing all your designs with us.
Yes.
When you explained the material that you used in your designs, I saw that it's exactly represents the identity of Danish design, using the natural material with its in its most natural state is the way to express the identity.
Yeah.
I wonder if you consider to use the residuals, remaining parts of the material in the production, like sawmills of sawdusts of wood, or the scraps of leather, or the marble that you use as a second product to do something. Because in my opinion, when you use the remaining parts of the materials, you need to use some unnatural materials like resins to make them to join and use them in a different way, or make them laminated with some plastics and etc., which is not very much Danish.
No.
Right? But still, we have to respect the use of. We have to keep our mind that we have to respect resources that we have. So this is a kind of duality in my mind.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask what you think about this, and I also wonder if there are some nationwide strategies of using that remaining material that comes out from the production.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's different ways into that question, and actually there's a kind of company or community where you can put up your leftovers, and there's a lot of different companies are doing that. So you can go into that company and see if they have any leftovers for you that you can use and buy cheap, of course. That's one way to do it. Another way is that there's just a new thing coming up with recycled leather, where you where you make new leather of old leather. So you can use the leftovers to make a new leather. It's not as strong because you will destroy the structure of the natural leather, but you can use it, and we actually use it also for some tabletops already, the recycled leather. And then the last way of using it is that we are building up an accessories department with hooks and small leather pieces that can be used in different ways, where we use small pieces of steel, small pieces of leather, small pieces of wood, all from the leftovers for a new product. So there are different ways of using this, because of course you have to have that in mind to be a environmental friendly company, right? Was
Thank you
that
very
answer
much.
to the question, or?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know. There is one from the student here. I'm not sure, Cheval, what you mean here. You always advise that get rid of unnecessary things. Details shouldn't be for decor. Yes, but when the sir was a student, how did you figure out that the things I add, my design, are unnecessary? I don't know. She's probably trying to figure out how does one figure out what is necessary and what is not necessary, and I guess that comes with with a criteria. But if you want to elaborate anything on that, but I think that's something you went into the slides, isn't it? It's not compromising.
You basically have to look at the piece and see if you can get rid of anything. If there's anything you can leave behind. If you can take some detail out of the furniture, out of the piece you are making, then it's an unnecessary detail.
Okay, with that, I think we should stop here. We are well over time, and thank you, Dennis Marquart, for coming here to the ArchiDesign talks in Istanbul, and to enrich our students of Bahçeşehir University with your presence. And it has been a joy to listen to this, and I think you went exactly into issues that are so important for designers, and especially from a Danish Scandinavian point of view, which is very rigid, it's and like you well explained. So thank you.
Thank you for hosting me, and I hope to see you in real life someday down there.
and thank you, Professor Elçin and Professor Mine, for making this possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
I just have a closing remark. Thank you for this delightful presentation. It's been great having you with us here. We have a little tradition here in ArchiDesign Talks. As Bahçeşehir University Faculty of Architecture and Design, we make a small donation in our guest's name. So now you have 3 young trees in a memorial forest in Turkey. So thank you so much for your time and your effort.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
So maybe you will see them next time when you come to Istanbul. Take a walk there.
I hope so. That was nice to hear.
Okay. All right.
So good evening, everyone.
Good evening, and thank you again, Dennis Marquart.
Yeah.